So, David, it's really nice to meet you. Can you introduce yourself and also what you are doing?
Yeah, hi there. My name's David Pope. I've been in the gambling industry since about 2004, and my specialism is in identity, in how we help operators to know who they're dealing with, to know who their customers are. And my company is called Mytech. We're one of the leaders in identity verification services in gambling. And the reason it's so important in gambling, the reason it's really important in gambling is that gaming operators, their regulators, their governments say that they have to know who their customers are, that they have to know that their customers are at least 18 years of age, that they have to keep crime out of gambling, they have to prevent fraud, they have to prevent money laundering, and that's what we call KYC, know your customer. But what gambling operators also like to do is to really understand their customer. So we work with gambling operators like Betfred, like Mr. Q, and in fact what we do is we help them know that their customers are who they say they are, but also understand their customers and whether their customers are actually able to afford to make that bet.
Thank you, that's very interesting. So you mentioned that fraud is a big problem for the casinos. Can you tell a little bit more about what type of frauds they are experiencing and how can you help them?
Yeah, so one of the most important things for gambling operators to do is to prevent money laundering going through their operations. So gambling operators work very, very hard to make sure that they've verified the name, the address, the date of birth, the telephone number, the email address, all of the different customer attributes when a customer is signing up for an account on their websites. But one of the big fraud issues we're seeing emerge at the moment in online gambling is what we call account takeover. So this is where fraudsters get hold of usernames, passwords, payment details of the customers of an existing gambling account. And in fact, account takeover has risen by 307% in the last 3 years. And what we're seeing now is sometimes gambling sites come under attack for account takeover, and that's really bad for gambling sites. Their customers, when they see their account details have been compromised, they'll leave, they'll go away, they'll take their business elsewhere. They will be fined by the regulator. In the regulations, whether it's in Malta, the MGA, or the UK, the UK Gambling Commission, it's part of the licensing conditions that they have to safeguard customer funds. So account takeover really is a problem at the moment. But what we also see is that consumers don't like passwords anymore. Passwords are outdated, passwords are hard to remember. Many people are quite lazy with their passwords. If I were to tell you that 22 million people across the world use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as their password, would that surprise you? So users don't like passwords, passwords are weak, biometrics are better. And what I mean by biometrics is making sure that when a user logs onto their gambling site, or when a user is about to perform a high-risk action, maybe they're about to withdraw all their winnings, maybe they're about to make a very, very high-value bet, biometrics increases the security of those processes. And what I mean by biometrics is making sure that the user is providing the same face and or the same voice during that high-risk action. So it's a very, very simple enrolment process. It takes less than 3 seconds for a user to be asked to take a photo of their face, and we perform something called liveness detection. And this checks that it really is a live face in the camera. It's not a fraudster holding up a photo of somebody. It's not a fraudster playing a video on a device. It's not a fraudster wearing a mask like in Mission Impossible. And this is what we call passive liveness detection. All the user has to do is take a photo. They don't have to do any of these strange actions. It's got to be a good user experience. So at enrolment, the user provides their face, and then later on, at a high-risk transaction, all the user does again is take a selfie, and we compare the original face to a unique biometric numerical template to make sure it's that same face and it's actually a live face. And we can do the same with voices as well. So what we see at the moment is account takeover coming into the gambling industry, and increasingly operators wanting to use biometrics to safeguard their customer accounts and move beyond simple passwords.
That's really impressive. And how long does it take to validate all the documents?
Sure. So the biometrics process takes less than 3 seconds to enroll or for authentication. In fact, it's a sub-second process just for the biometric authentication. Now, for other processes, the operator wants to see an identity document, And what we ask the user to do is basically go through a process, looks a little bit like this, and we provide the UI. We make it really easy for the user to go through the journey. One of our specialisms at Mitech is that we're not just providing the technology to validate the identity, but we're providing a really smooth digital journey that makes it easy for the user to go through that journey. And we guide the user. We give the user lots of prompts, we give them lots of guidance about how to take a good image, how to take the photo, what they have to do next. We help usher them through the process. So we're here. Our goal at Mitech is safe digital access for all. So yes, we're protecting the operators, but we're also here to give a good user experience to people that have to go through KYC processes. So in terms of how long it takes, sometimes we validate the document automatically using just technology, but sometimes if it's not a great image or it's a particular kind of ID document, we pass that to our specially trained agents who do a forensic examination of the documents, and that might take a minute or 2 minutes to go through that process. But the operators like the security. They like the fact that they're not just letting people in, they like the fact that we're being careful and we're safeguarding them against underage gambling, against fraud, and against financial crime, and against account takeover.
That's very interesting, and it's a very smooth experience. I know casinos where it takes like many days actually to validate the documents.
Yeah, you see it many times on the forums, users complaining how long it takes them to have documents validated, and you also see users complaining about how long it takes for payouts to be processed. And that's especially frustrating because the user, they want to get hold of their money. So at Mitech, what we do is we speed up those processes. When you see those kind of complaints, invariably what it is it's an operator that's got their own staff in an office somewhere, maybe here in Malta, maybe somewhere else in the world. And that's where the operators have their own staff checking these identity documents. And those people that work in the back office and the customer services team, they're not experts. They don't have all the tools to quickly analyse the ID documents, and that's what we do at Mitech. We speed up that process, so it's better for the operators because their users, their customers, have a quicker, smoother digital journey.
Now there is one more aspect that's coming up in the forums many times, and that is where are all these personal data stored and how are they handled? Can a player really trust a casino operator or a KYC operator to, not to leak out the passport information and so on?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Increasingly, the world of identity is being designed along data protection principles, along safety principles. And one of the things that we do at Mitech is we minimise the amount of data we hold. We don't want to keep copies of passports if our clients don't want us to. We offer a process whereby our client can say, we, the client, want to store the identity documents, but our general process is that we delete the document, we don't keep the identity document, we minimise the amount of data we store, and we go through very strict security assessment processes and certification processes to make sure that we are following all data protection and all security standards as well.
That's very reassuring. I also have one more question. There are certain casinos where, as part of the registration process, you are required to upload certain documents for KYC, and for other casinos you can start paying in and play immediately, but when you want to withdraw, then you have to do the KYC. Why is this difference?
Okay, so why is there a difference between different casinos in terms of when the KYC process takes place? So that's all based on where that casino is licensed. And you have really strong regulatory regimes, like here in Malta, or in the UK, or in Germany, and in many other countries around the world. And there they say that the KYC has to take place when the customer signs up and makes the deposit. In other jurisdictions around the world, the KYC can be done later, further down the line. So that's why there's a difference. It's based on where the gaming operator, the gambling site, is regulated. The danger of not doing the KYC straight away at point of account creation is that you're allowing youngsters, children, to gamble online. And all the regulations around the world say, look, you cannot let children gamble, you cannot even let children do free gambling with pretend money either. So the danger in not doing the KYC straight away is that it brings children into online gambling, but also it allows potential money launderers to get a foot in the financial system. And then they have to refund the money, and it begins the start of the money laundering process. So really, we've seen in the last 10 years a massive change whereby the KYC process is brought forward, so it's done at account creation, not just a payout, and that's the better, safer process. Of course, it brings friction to the user early on at account sign-up, but if the journey is designed nicely, if the UI is good, if the UX is good, then it can be done in a way that makes it really easy for the player, easy for the customer, and doesn't slow them down.
Now that's making it very clear. One more question is that I understand that your process is really fast and smooth, but still frictions will occur for technical reasons or for other reasons. And the other challenge that players find is to communicate either with the operator if they are doing the KYC or communicating with the KYC operator, because where there is a language barrier, also they are in a stressful situation in general. How do you handle this situation?
Okay, so that's a good question. Basically, it's the job of the identity provider that the gaming operator is using to really think about every different permutation of the user journey. What might happen if the user makes this mistake? What might happen if this happens? And the digital journey has to think about that and give the guidance if that happens. But there's lots of other things that we do at Mytech. So, for example, if so you'll say you're from Hungary. So we can serve the journey in Hungarian or Polish or Romanian or any one of 20-something other languages. And if we give the UI in the user's local language, basically we look at what browser, what language settings is the default on the browser, and then we serve the journey automatically in that language. Or the operator can say it must be served in this particular language. And so first of all, we make it really easy from a language perspective for the user to understand what they have to do. And of course at Mytech, our job isn't just to make sure that the users are who they say they are, but it's to help our gambling operator clients to maximise the percentage of their users that get over that KYC finishing line. So language is a very, very important thing. And allowing the user to get in touch, to say, hey, this is happening, I've uploaded my passport, but it's being rejected, why is that? And so we can look at that passport and say, actually, look, the reason it's being rejected is that our gambling operator has created a setting in our journey that says they don't want any passports that are within 2 months of expiry, and that might be the reason. So we can jump in and work with the user to help them get through the process, and that's us helping our client, helping the operator.
Okay, now that's very clear too. And one final question. If there is such an easy way to do a KYC possible from a technical point of view, why, I would say, not so many operators are using it?
Not so many, sorry, can you clarify the question?
Yeah, sure. So if there is a technical way to make a KYC process so quick and simple and smooth, why do I still, in so many casino websites, the old-fashioned, you have to upload a lot of documents and wait many days to verify process?
Okay, so there's several things there. Number one, maybe that gambling operator is just using a document validation provider behind the scenes, and maybe they've captured the document themselves, they're sending it to a document validation provider. That's the wrong way to think about KYC. Gambling operators need to find a provider that is actually part of the journey, is part of that digital journey, and embeds itself in the operator's website or their app, and gives really good UI, really good UX, and guides the user through the process. So we see many situations whereby the operator themselves manages the capture of the ID document and then throws the ID document at somebody else to verify, or it might be their staff in the back office. That's what creates delays. That's what, when our clients capture the document themselves, instead of using our capture tools to make sure we capture a really good image of the document, that's what creates long delays in the back office. So we advocate to use our UI embedded in our client's site or app, So we work with the user to get a very good image first time, which means we can validate the document quickly with technology, and less of those documents have to go to a manual agent to look at and do an analysis on.
Excellent.